Alright, so like I stated earlier in my update video, I thought I'd go over eventually some elements of the Vanguard anime. But today I'm gonna do a tier list of my personal favorites of the Vanguard anime and, just some stuff that I find is just okay. And then this stuff that I absolutely fucking despise with a burning passion. I will go at this in order, even though on here, I just found a random one online. And it's not in order, but either way, I gotta say, I have watched most of these multiple times over, except for If and the Bermuda anime, which, that I'm gonna have to discuss at some point in this video. Oh god, I'm gonna fucking hate that. But, without further ado, let's get into it. So starting off with the original. The season 1, 2011 anime. I'm gonna say it's good, but it has quite a few notable issues with it. So, this should go without saying, but maybe I'll put it before, maybe I'll put it after, but definitely spoilers from this point on. I will definitely say, or rather, I will definitely vouch, that the original 65 episodes of the original Vanguard anime were honestly really good for its time. However, there were a lot of issues with character development, overall length of certain matches in general, and the animation, you can tell by some of just the scenes in general that even for 2011 standards, it looks something straight out of the late 2000s. Like, I'm talking like, not even like 2009, I'm talking like 2007. So, yeah, that's the only bad part about the show. But honestly, there's a lot of really good intense moments, a lot of just good world building. So, or character building, whatever the hell you want to call it. I love this show, but it's not that good. So, next we get to Asia Circuit, and I'm gonna say I fucking despise Asia Circuit with a burning passion. I never liked this, okay? Mostly because they started this trend where they would have people forget that things even existed in the first place, and this is the this is the season in particular that started it. So, I have to put this in, I hate it with a burning passion, but I can at least sit through the end of it at least. Mostly because, the Leon stuff is interesting, but, I don't know. I still find it just kind of mid. I'm sorry. I know there are some people who liked it because of, the different, mechanics and how they, went about, changing the game midway through a tournament and whatnot, which I found interesting because some of those moments were actually hilarious. Like the one where Aichi, gets drive checks on his rear guards and shit, and it's just like, okay, I've got a fuck ton of grade 3s. I can just sit there and go unga bunga, Those moments were funny, but, overall the anime was just unenjoyable, especially when there were quite a few filler episodes that I was just about, so, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of character development in this season in particular, most notably with Q4 in particular, and, even Kai to an extent, but either way, I didn't like how people were forgetting things, even despite the fact that, because the real big question I have with this season in particular is, how do you make everyone forget that 3 clans existed? Do you just rewrite over the actual footage that came out of the national tournament with just Gold Powder Mirror, or, you know what I mean? That's the thing that I get bothered by when I watch this. So, yeah, I definitely have to say that it could have been a lot better. Moving on to season 3. I definitely want to say it's better than the original, the season 1. I definitely want to say it's better than season 1, but I don't think it's Messiah tier. I really don't think it's Messiah tier at all. I'm sorry. I know that may seem very weird because of how much praise I always tend to give season 3 in particular, for anybody who really knows me. But, looking back at it now, I liked what they were doing initially with the high school arc, and then they went shonen heavy as fuck on it, which I had nothing against, but admittedly, the high school part took a bit too long, especially since there were a few filler episodes that I feel like they could have gutted out, but honestly, outside of that, I loved season 3 as a whole. I loved the fact that we weren't just fixated on Aichi and the gang this time around, you know. We were kind of seeing this, you know, the perspective of other people like Kote, Leon, Ren, you know, all of them. And honestly, I absolutely loved it. Even Kamui had a lot of character development too. Like, despite him not really having much character development in the first 2 seasons, like Kamui to me is just like he undergoes a lot of character development in this particular season. And there were a lot of heart-wrenching moments too, like just sprinkled throughout. And this season in particular is probably one of the more influential out of all the other seasons combined, as in terms of what the Vanguard series was going down. So, I don't know, I absolutely love this season, but I don't think it's not good enough to be in Messiah tier. Then we go to Legion Mate. I'm gonna put it in decent, okay? So, my issue with Legion Mate is that they repeat a similar trend that they did with Season 2, where they made everyone forget something. This time, it's Aichi. Why did they make Aichi suddenly the villain? I don't know, but who cares, because him being corrupted by Link Joker really does fucking matter in the grand scheme of things, and, you know, it's unlike in Season 2, I'll give this credit, they actually fucking make it so that way they have to retcon everything when it comes to certain character development. Like, for instance, Naoki completely forgets that Vanguard's even a thing. Nobody knows that Q4 is even a thing. Just all these little weird interactions, you know, within Season 4 in particular is interesting. And I really like the build-up, you know, especially with that episode with Korn versus Kai. Like, holy shit, that was a huge bombshell. Like, at first, a lot of people were assuming, oh, these 4 are the big baddies and shit. And then it turns out that Aichi's the fucking problem here. It's not even the Katir Knights at that point. Aichi's just sitting there and going like, hey, yo, I know you're trying to come find me and shit, but leave me the fuck alone. You really don't want to deal with me right now. I'm basically on my monthly. And like that's just to put it mildly with this. Like, honestly, I enjoyed this season, but it's not as good as Season 1 and 3, if I had to say it. Now, I want to talk about the Neon Messiah movie, and I have to say it was decent. Now, I know this isn't technically a season within the Vanguard anime as a whole, but I can't deny that it was honestly a really solid film for what it was. They did rush the early parts of the story, but I mean, when you're trying to condense it to like an hour, 20-minute film, you kind of have to just shove that off to the side. But outside of that, the animation was absolutely like honestly gorgeous considering what we had before. And honestly, like I'm mad because I wish I could see this in HD, because trying to find an HD version of this is like really a pain in the dick. I swear to Christ. So honestly, if you haven't watched it, if you could find a high def version, let me know in the comments and I will definitely rewatch it again. Because goddamn, I absolutely fucking, like, this was like hype as shit when it first came out too. Like, oh my god, this movie was actually not bad. So now we move on to the G series, and I gotta say, I fucking hate the first season of Vanguard G. I'm sorry. I know this is gonna make people fucking pissed, but I really hate the original, like, the first season of G. God, I can't English today. You can tell I never scripted this shit. G to me, season 1 in particular, like, especially watching it when I first watched it way back in 2015, I could not get past the fact that Chrono was the main character. I did not like his character overall. He was just unconvincing, you know, as a main protagonist. And that's a damn shame because, like, you know, his build-up wasn't terrible. You know, he eventually lightened up and shit, but, like, why did it take 24 episodes, you know? It wasn't even 24 episodes, it was more like 30, really. Why did it take him so long to just lighten up? And even then, like, he was just that uninteresting. Like, he was just typical shonen protagonist out here, you know, who finds, like, random cards in his locker and shit. and then he goes to a card shop and does things. And you know what? That's fine. You know, but then the rest of the character development with him was just so weird. And they took a little too long to build up the other characters too. Like, we don't even get really good character development until the next season, which I'll go over in a moment, with even Shion and Tokuha's characters. But, like, I don't know, like, I really, like, don't get me wrong, I absolutely, like, there were, like, toward the end, it was fine, because you knew the direction where it was going. Like, Hanzaki was actually, like, threatening somewhat. Like, you know you're messing with somebody who you should not be messing with when this guy can run a horse down a fucking skyscraper. Like, I'm not even kidding. If I can find that, like, somewhere, I'll put it in the video. But, like, goddamn. Like, it also helped that the only saving grace with this is that Kanzaki was voiced by Dia Brando, so, like... Thank Christ. But I'm specifically saying in the sub version, not the dub. The dub, like, say what you will about the original, but the dub for G and then the later series were just terrible, so... Like, outside of season 1 of the original Vanguard, like the 2011, the rest of the dubs were kind of trash, and this was, like, very noticeable. This was the season that it became very noticeable. When the dub was just kind of just mid. But yeah. G, season 1, kind of just okay. Gears Crisis. I'm gonna say it, and I know people are going to disagree with me. Messiah tier. I'm gonna say that, and I'm gonna vouch for it. I love the character development that goes into this, in particular season, because, you know, Shion has to pretty much build himself up from scratch after he honestly makes a really dumb decision. And we see this change in development in this character. Same thing with Tokuha, with her trying to figure out what it is that she wants to do, you know, as in terms of her life, because she doesn't feel like she wants to follow her brother Mamoru in any sort of way, with his, like, kind of, like, career being with the Promotion Association. But then, she, throughout this entire season and a little bit into Stridegate, you know, she's trying to figure her own thing out. And the same thing going on with Chrono, trying to figure out if pursuing Ryuzu Myojin's the best course of action or letting someone else handle it, because it could cost him his life. Even getting his aunt involved midway through the season, kind of like telling him, are you sure this is what you want to do? And then he's like, yes, I have to, because otherwise it's going to eat me up inside. Like, and that's not even considering that we finally got cameos of all of the original characters, such as Kai. Misaki was always there, but Kai in particular coming back in this season was huge for Shion's development. We saw all the, like, the major characters from before. We saw Leon, Ren. It was just so good. This particular season was honestly really fucking solid as in terms of, like, overall, like, character development. It was so good. Hell, we even had a really cool Daigo fight, you know, in the middle of the season, and that was honestly really fantastic. Like, goddamn, like, this is what you do with a card game anime. Like, is it realistic? No. But I don't care. Like, the character development alone was really good in this, in particular. And then we have Strygate, which I'm gonna say, I'm not even, like, both of these are interchangeable. Like, anything with Messiah tier, they're on equal footing, pretty much. I loved Strygate overall. You know, the shocking realization that Ryuzu Myojin isn't dead yet. Because as it turns out, when he goes up in smoke, it only turns out that he's only mostly dead.
Yeah? Well, it just so happens that your friend here is only mostly dead. There's a big difference between mostly dead and all dead. Please open his mouth.
And yeah, like, honestly, I fucking love this. Like, I love everything that came into it. You know, the whole issue of company. You know, it was just... And the action in this in particular wasn't terrible. Some of the scenes in here were honestly not bad. And you can't sit there and tell me that Shout isn't the best Vanguard OP. Like, some would argue Break Your Spell in Season 3 from the original series, but I'm gonna say Shout is better. because it is that fucking good. Go listen to it. Like, goddamn, I love Stridegate. Like, between both Gears Crisis and Stridegate, this put my faith more so into, you know, Chrono as a character. Like, say what you will about G, you know, season 1, but honestly, I enjoyed sitting through Gears Crisis and Stridegate. So now we move on to G next, and I'm going to say, setup-wise, this was honestly really good, but it's not Messiah tier to me. I don't think it really, like, pops off in the way you would think. Just, you know, I really do like this season quite a bit because of the nice little character interactions between Kazuma and Kazumi Onimaru. And more importantly, you know, just seeing how these diff writers kind of like just have their own, you know, notion of, hey, we're just trying to fix our destinies and shit. Now, I know that was more so Kazumi in particular, because he was possessed by Shiranui, who legitimately wanted to erase the destiny between, you know, Earth and Christ, so that way they could actually live their own fucking lives, which really, it puts a moral, like perspective on it, like, because when you really sit there and think about it, like, you know, Earth's influence really does, like, change the course of destiny for a lot of the units on Christ. So, like, it really makes you ponder, like, hey, is it even right for us to kind of, like, have it continue to be like this? So, honestly, like, I really enjoyed the card fights that were mixed in there. I love how they introduced New Nippon, even though I admit the only one that was very notable to me was Noah, because 1, Chaos Breaker, and 2, like, how they did him dirty, like, in the middle of the tournament, like, fuck. Like, even Chrono picked up on it very fucking quickly. He's like, yo, who the hell are you? What the hell are you doing? Like, and it's just, honestly, I love just the craziness that goes on in this season. Yeah, and between that and also having, you know, Aichi mixed in there as well, like, honestly, I absolutely loved G-Next as a whole. Like, they did this season well. So then we get to GZ. I'm gonna say it. It's at least better than Legion May. I'm gonna be honest with you. At first, I absolutely hated GZ. For some weird reason. You know, the build-up was honestly good from G-Next into GZ. But I think what really pissed me off was the fact that Q4 was more involved when they really didn't need to be. And on top of that, at first I thought that they really didn't give New Nippon enough time to shine. But honestly, let's be honest, New Nippon weren't at a position where they can actually, like, handle threats like that. But the times that they did, they actually did do a lot. It actually were very meaningful and impactful. Like, when they were hacking into the security systems and everything, just to try to help everyone else out, you know, as they were doing that huge raid and mission, trying to figure out what the fuck happened to Chrono and company, you know, that was pretty lit. And then, while I would have liked it if Arata and Makoto would have fought Noah instead of Kai and Aichi, the fact that they referenced Season 3 at all of the original was pretty fucking bonkers. Like, that whole fight between Chaos Breaker and Aichi and Kai, really just top notch. And honestly, I just enjoyed, like, all the wild moments in this season in particular. And I think, to me, if you had to pick between Legion Mate and GZ for a series ender that was better, I have to say GZ. And that's just simply because you notice, like, unlike the original series where I had very noticeable issues with it, for the most part, the G anime was honestly very fucking solid. Like, outside of that initial first season, I enjoyed everything that came out of G. And I think a lot of people can mutually agree. It is a bit long throughout the entire G series. I'm not gonna lie. I think is it technically longer than the original? I don't know. Someone can tell me in the comments. But honestly, I really enjoyed the G series as a whole. So I'm keeping it like this. So now we move to V. And I'm gonna be honest, it was a bit of a letdown. It was... Okay, I don't think I could say I hate it, but I don't think it's as good as Legion Mate or the Messiah movie. I wish I honestly could split this between the arcs. I'm a little mid on it now. I wish I would have been able to split it between the arcs, but the 2018 reboot of Vanguard started off very strong, I feel like. We actually got legitimate character development for characters that honestly just needed it more so. Like, for instance, we found out that Kamui, the main reason why he went to Card Capital in the first place is because he wants to get stronger to beat Team Asteroid, which I absolutely applaud because they finally did the one thing that I really disliked about the original series, is that they kept the character and the cast to a minimum. And I'm kind of mad that I didn't mention it before with the original series, as well as like throughout the entirety of the original series in particular. But I felt like they had a lot of characters that just honestly didn't need to be there, or situations or moments where certain characters did not need to pop in and put in exposition dumps. Like, honestly, that was my biggest issue with the original series, but V was attempting to correct a lot of those issues, I felt like, from a more personal level. And it also helped that I had somebody else who never watched any of the other series prior to this, kind of give her thoughts and opinions on it. And I think she would mutually agree that, the V-series anime, the 2018 anime, wasn't terrible. I honestly say, like, it started off good, but then the Brontgate stuff, not the Bront shit and the Cyqualia zombie shit, that was kind of weird. I know they were trying to repeat season 3 of the original, but, like, to me, it just, sure, you can sit there and make the argument that, like, they actually did a better job, like, making it more of a threat, because hell, even Aichi gets involved with this shit and becomes a Cyqualia zombie toward the end of it. And you really think that there's, like, a lot going on, but you also know what type of show this is, and they're not just going to go ahead and fucking Thanos snap an entire planet away just for the sake of convenience. So, I don't know, like, I honestly didn't mind it after rewatching it recently, but, like, I admit it has its problems. So then we moved to the high school arc. And I think that this was just kind of mid. This was also kind of mid. I liked what they did with Kai's character, because in the original, Kai and Misaki's motivations for doing the stuff that they do in their respective shows is kind of the same, where both of their parents die, and they kind of, regress back to a point where they're there. But here, they did something that I was honestly not expecting, and I will give it a lot of applause for, is that they kind of just took Kai's character and just turned it up a notch. So basically, they made it so that way, instead of Kai's parents dying, Kai's parents straight up abandoned him. And as a result, he's hopping from house to house, relative to relative, trying to find his place in the world. But the only good thing to come out of his life is Vanguard. And then that's when he eventually meets up with Ren and Tetsu. And honestly, I love the character development for Kai in this particular, like, these 12 episodes, because he goes through a lot. Like, you can tell. There's a lot of emotion that went into that entire scene, and I wish they would have just thrown that into the first, like, couple arcs of V instead of having this. So, honestly, that's just my honest opinion on it. Then we move to Bermuda Triangle, I want to say, it technically comes after this. Yeah, fuck this show. I watched it once, and I never again. I'd rather get caught watching legit any awful off-brand anime out there. And I'm saying off-brand in massive air quotations, because when I say off-brand, I think most people know what I'm referring to. I'd rather get caught dead watching something like that than ever get caught watching Bermuda. Because I'm pretty sure if someone watched me watching Bermuda, they would probably call the police on me. Like, I'm not trying to sit there. Like, don't get me wrong. It's a cutesy little show, that, have cute girls doing cute things, doing some moe shit, but I can't fucking stand it. Like, sorry, that's just not my cup of tea at all. Like, if it is for you, and you could get past that, good for you. But for me, that is a definite no. Then we have the Shinamon arc. Cinnamon? I'm just gonna call it the Shin arc, for the sake of argument. And I gotta say, this was honestly really solid. Like, in all honesty, I loved the Shin arc overall. Like, out of anything that came out of V, they really did a good job with this prequel. Now, for those who haven't watched the Shin arc, this is supposed to be a prequel, I think, to V, but also you could also count this as a prequel to the original as well, because they go into depth and details as to parts or, like, little tidbits that they did for Strikegate as well as, you know, just the G series in general. You know, with Shin becoming, you know, the new manager of Card Capital. And then you also have Rive, you know, being, you know, Chrono's father, but then, you know, having his thing go on with Ryuzu. And then just all the twists and turns that go into this is honestly just baffling. And I absolutely love this show. Like, my only complaint is that we didn't get more of a G crossover and maybe have it turn into becoming a Vanguard G reboot, which is what people were kind of hoping for, but they never did. And a lot of people are still kind of just upset about that. But to be honest, like, we didn't need it. I'm like, honestly, I think this was just overall, this probably would have been a way better than anything that the G reboot would have given it. And then for the last one on this video, fucking if. If I could have a separate tier, this would be its own tier. You would have Bermuda and then Vanguard if. I fucking hate if with a burning passion. So what happens when you take Cardcaptor Sakura and Cardfight Vanguard and have them, you know, fuck? This is basically what Vanguard if is. It is a Madoka Magica ripoff that tries its best to take itself seriously, but it's more confusing than Morbius. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, and I watched Morbius recently, and I could say that this is more confusing than that. Like, I absolutely fucking despised this show with a burning passion. I had to basically play a drinking game rewatching it recently, and I couldn't, like I understood, like, this was a whole, you know, what if Kai and Aichi never met kind of situation, and honestly, like, there were some interesting things about it, but to be honest, I was kind of just like, what the fuck? Like, honestly, what is this? Like,
holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
who asked for this? Like, legitimately? So, I don't know, I just fucking hate if in general. Yeah, that's really, like, I just absolutely fucking hate this show. Especially when they initially make Koji, like, the main protagonist in this, but then it's obviously more apparent that it's Emi, and then it suddenly becomes Kai, and all these, like, loops and hurdles and shit, and Aichi becoming evil because he wants to destroy Vanguard as a means to make sure that Kai stays happy in his life, but at the end of the day, that's not what he wants, and that's just, oh my god, this show fucking sucks! I'm sorry, like, I fucking hate this show with a burning passion. That's my list. I don't have to make any edits whatsoever, because I've been thinking about this for a while now. But yeah, that being said, I will definitely say that while I didn't put Overdress on here, it's simply because it's not done yet. But if I had to put season 1 and 2 somewhere, I would say it's decent. I would argue slightly worse than V's first, like, arc, but I think it would still rank higher than V, just slightly. Probably a little higher than Legion Mate, honestly. Because there's a lot of, like, attention to detail going into it, and I don't know what season 3 and 4 are gonna, you know, entail, but either way, like, it's probably better than anything that the V series has ever produced, and I think that the Vanguard anime is definitely going in a unique direction that I'm hoping just improves over time. But yeah, let me know in the comment section what you guys think, and till next time, this is Noah, and I'll catch you later. Bye!